Over the years, Franklin Pierce University students have been able to enjoy the weekends without having to worry about a strict social gathering policy. Starting in the fall of the 2019-2020 academic year, a new policy was implemented towards social gatherings. Many students did not think that these rules were necessary, and I saw a good story here from a capstone project. The school wants to protect the students for them to be safe, and the students just want to have fun. What do you think?
Um, I think the rules at Lakeview this year were a little bit much. I think that if you're going to have a bunch of 21-year-olds living in houses, having parties and stuff, you're going to put all these regulations on it and like kind of tell them that what they can and can't do and make rules that Ringe PD doesn't even enforce and enforce rules when you can't count actually like you don't actually count how many people you're just doing an eye test and I don't know the rules they were just like a lot and it wasn't didn't seem like it was something that was helping students.
I also got the chance to talk to Kathleen Dougherty, the Assistant Dean of Student Affairs at Franklin Pierce, to get her side of the story.
Sure. So it's actually a university-wide policy for any of the wet residence halls. So there, it also affects Northwoods and Mountain View, so the towers and Lakeview Sawmills. We've always had a social gathering policy at Franklin Pierce, but we found that students in previous years weren't necessarily abiding by those policies, and we were having a really difficult time as a res life and campus safety staff holding students accountable when they weren't really aware of what the policy was to begin with. Sure. So the biggest piece that I think is necessary is for student safety. So the policy and the capacities associated with the social gathering is fire code. So we didn't make those up like, oh, I think at 40 sounds like a good number. That is what the fire marshal came into the university, measured the number of egresses and the square footage to say the maximum number of people you can have in here and it be safe is this number. And we found in years prior that there were a lot more than that in some of these Lakeview parties specifically, but sometimes in the towers too, they were going over capacity. And if we did have a major emergency, some type of fire, or maybe there's a fight happening in one of the buildings, we might not have been able to provide necessary emergency response to help those people.
To get a third party's opinion on the subject, I decided to talk to someone that graduated from Franklin Pierce recently to see how someone who didn't have these policies feels about them.
The houses kind of took control of everything that was going on, and I think it was a lot of responsibility upon the students. And for the most part, that worked out really well. If things got too out of hand, people would understand that and kind of enforce house rules, I guess, at the discretion of the house. The restrictions, the newer restrictions, are a little bit much. I understand that they're what they're kind of like shooting for, like what their goal is with those, is kind of have a safer place for students to like get together and have parties. But at the same time, I think restricting that to the point where people can't actually have parties with like, if you have your friends over and then your friends have friends over, that 40 is going to be hit right away. And especially on the weekends in a town or a school that's kind of way out in the sticks in Ringe, New Hampshire, there's not a whole lot else stuff to do on the weekends. So when you're having a party with your friends, it kind of stinks that that's kind of limiting that. Especially younger people about drinking alcohol or like recreational drugs, that it's better to teach them about the like dangers of it rather than to restrict them from doing it. So educating is better than trying to restrict them from doing something.
The rules ended up working rather nicely for the school, and only a handful of incidents occurred, and nobody was fined for breaking the rules. We're going to have to see and wait